54?
54?
54. No.
Num num.
So the topic.
Topic.
The topic.
Came prepared today.
Well, of course we will. I'm sure we'll deviate from the topic, but so I am diving deep into concepts of like energy balancing and energy healing, and the so there's one of the books that I'm reading slash like the research that I'm doing on like Marcel Vogel's crystal healing. In one of the I don't know recordings or messages or whatever they are, they talk about dissonance and the fact that so structure dissonance cannot. Well, should I just read the passage itself?
Sure.
And then you can flash the passage on. So the actual quote is dissonance cannot attune with an ordered state of geometrical resonance. And ordered state of geometrical resonance basically means structure, right? So, like holding structure. So, they're saying in this channeled statement is dissonance cannot hold structure. And the example that they give is the what's the guy's name? The Dr. Emoto who did
Yeah.
the water experiments. And basically, whenever you take a water, um, like would be
Petri dish?
petri dish, sure, and you insert a thought into it, right? With speech. Oh, usually with speech. See, this new cup is presenting already issues because I like bumped on this.
Mm.
Um,
Dissonance.
I don't think it's gonna be dissonance, but
I can hear it peeling off of your
it
pants
yeah,
every
it's
time.
like sticky at the bottom, and then it like sticks to my pants because I just took the label off too. I'm experimenting with a new cacao cup, and I'm not sure I'm loving it yet, but we'll see how it goes. It's like it's bulkier, but the volume is the same. Yeah. So the water, right, when it's being held in a let's say petri dish, if you speak an intention into it verbally, it works the best verbally. And if you try to speak intention of like anger or judgment or hate,
Mhm.
when the water freezes, it does not hold structure.
Right. The crystals look look terrible and not symmetrical and and just overall yucky.
Yeah, well, like you can, the, right? The geometrical structure that makes up our
Yeah, like a snowflake.
reality, right? Yes,
Yeah,
sure.
well,
Stuff
yeah,
like,
yeah. In Emoto's examples, like
yeah, in Motor Snow, he basically tried to create snowflakes. Um, but in truth, remember there's a lady on Gaia who does this, like she does this much more so than him,
yeah.
and she implants specific words. She would say like, "Oh,
Rainbow.
a rainbow," right? And then the water, will freeze and will try to resemble her intention, which is the idea of a
Yeah,
rainbow. So it's kind of like
yeah,
she's imprinting her idea into the water.
yeah,
And she has dozens and dozens. Maybe you can link her in the
yeah,
of pictures of water. But okay, here's the words that I've spoken, and here's how the frozen water looks like.
yeah, yeah. I guess she followed up on Emoto. Emoto, here's a whole bunch of negative things spoken to water, and then we freeze it, and it just looks terrible. And here's a whole bunch of positive things. Here's love, and here's gratitude, and whatever. And they're all just the most beautiful, symmetrical snowflakes you've ever seen.
Yeah, but I mean, a snowflake is a geometrical structure.
I don't know if it was him or if it was someone else. They did the same thing with, I think it was rice. They took the bowl of rice, and they're like, this one is just the control. We're not going to do anything with that. This one we're going to say angry things to, and this one we're going to say positive things to. And the control one, went bad and got moldy at a normal rate. And the other one, that the negative things were said to, it got really yucky really fast. And then the one that all the positive things were spoken to, either I don't remember if it didn't mold or if it was just like a slight amount, and it took longer or something.
Like cooked rice just sitting there, or
Ye
like they're trying to grow rice?
No, this was cooked rice. There was a bowl of, like,
Okay.
cooked rice, and, it'll last, several days in our refrigerator, but after
Mhm.
3 weeks, we'd find one in the back of the refrigerator, like, "Oh, that's not good anymore."
Mhm. It
You
gets
know?
slimy in the refrigerator, but I don't
Yeah.
think they even had it in the fridge. I think they
No, I
just
think it
had it
was
out
just
of there.
out. Ours, it will get moldy even in the refrigerator. Um,
But it's not
I've
like
seen it.
the green mold. It's usually like red mold, right?
I think it's, like, black.
Oh, is
It's
it?
I don't know, it's yucky, but,
Okay.
um
Maybe we shouldn't be imprinting more positive thoughts into our
right?
race.
I mean, but taking this, you know, just half a step further, water, rice, all these things are literally going into your body to become more of you,
Yeah.
right? The rice, you eat the rice, it becomes more cells, it becomes more of you. You drink the
Mhm.
water, it replenishes your cells, it becomes more of you.
Yeah.
So if you're angry when you're drinking your coffee in the morning or whatever, you know, that's not that's not a good cycle, feedback cycle.
Yeah, but what's even more important, like not only like angry verbally, but also angry subconsciously. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
vibrational
yeah, yeah,
frequency of
yeah.
your intent.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to go, is that it doesn't have to literally come out of your mouth in order for it to, have that effect on that water.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime I make cacao, right? My intent is to I literally charge it with to open more to the knowing. Oh my gosh, I forgot to sage.
Have a pause.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to pause. I'm like, what's missing? What's missing?
So you said intentions for cow. You said intentions when you sage things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so the 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 book that I finished wait, no, wait, the presentation that I finished watching reading, and just starting the research into the crystal situation of it. But we've been talking about this for a while. Our subconscious intent is actually what manifests our reality, or our subconscious thinking is actually intent, and then thus it manifests our reality subconsciously, unbeknownst to us, right? And so if the energy is of dissonance, and I guess they did reference the chart, the same chart that David Hawkins. I don't know if he actually invented it or if it's just the chart and he was just referencing it, that of the emotions chart. So if
Hmm.
you can like flash it here. And then so the lower emotions on that chart, basically they're saying you cannot hold structure, right? Um and so the question I guess that we started talking about yesterday, or the question that I had is, if something negative is happening, right, that is of hatred, that is of anger, of these lower density emotions, right? Is it happening? It's happening, right? Like we can perceive it occurring. But just like you can speak thoughts into water and then water will not hold structure, it almost seems like, in the good way, I guess, even though something negative is happening, it cannot grab hold of structure. Do you know what I mean? It almost seems that way.
Elaborate.
So let's say we have a lot of things going on with earth that we aren't happy about, right? And some of them are negative, right? In order to offset them, right? Because that's what my thought process is. My thought process is, wait, well, how do we offset the negative? Or by negative I mean, like, how do we offset things that we don't want to happen, right? If we don't want our oceans polluted, how do we offset that, right?
Right.
If we do not want uh you know
Wars.
wars,
Yeah.
sure, how do we offset that, right?
By protesting, of course. Right.
Well, and so then I thought, okay, this concept of dissonance not being able to hold structure is kind of the answer to it all. Like, I think this is kind of like the saving grace, if there's such thing, to where if we communicate love, and love can basically grab hold of something that's so, like structure is almost like what I perceive as grabbing hold of like existing, right? Is being solid in the sense of, snowflake is visual and it exists in this structural form, is balanced. Structure means it's balanced and it can actually maintain form, right? It can
Right, right.
maintain matter.
It's stable.
Yeah, it's stable. And non-structures means it's basically it doesn't even hold structure, right? So like if you took the snowflake, right, and it eventually started to melt, it would start to melt off into outside of its structure, right? It would just kind of congeal versus the melting of the structure of the uh, mold or sort of like you communicate hate into, right? It would just basically dissolve without a structure, right? And so the point that they're trying to make that I've been contemplating is to dissolve or to mend something that is of a lower frequency, that is of dissonance. Nothing actually is necessary at all. Like action towards that is unnecessary. And the only thing is necessary is providing of cohesive thought or cohesive structure that you're able to produce to replace it. So it is not a fight against someone or something. It is literally just giving it something else.
So if, you know, polluted oceans is the thing,
Yeah, I guess.
then you almost replace it with clean oceans. Like that?
Sure. Clean oceans or even like a thought of beautiful.
And does that leave room for going out and picking up trash to enact that change? Or
Yeah, and so that's I guess what I wanted to discuss is what right f- so the message was channeled from Pleiadians, right? And so Pleiadians are known for being able to work with energetic structures, like their form of healing, their form of construction, their form of like adaptation is all done through energetic interpretation. And it's something that we used to know and used to remember to some extent, but obviously have completely forgotten. And so the thought process here is this is already within us, right? This is already within our knowledge. The only thing we need to do is understand the basis of how it works, meaning like what is the process behind it. Um
it sounds like in the same neighborhood as manifesting.
yes, yeah. So this was 3 or 4 years ago maybe. Do you remember the dream that I had where Earth was fighting a war against like super technologically advanced things? So I know I'm saying like this sounds like Terminator. But it was not it was Terminator like, but it was the things were not necessarily of our design or our control. Like so it's either let's imagine ourselves some some time forward into the future, and then everything that we have created technologically advanced has evolved Terminator style. So I'm like trying not to
Sounds a
say,
lot like Terminator.
yeah, yeah. And so, and then we are fighting against, let's say, let's say just,
All right, let's just leave it at Terminator. All right,
Terminator.
my dream was Terminator.
It's
Never
just
mind.
Terminator.
Arnold was in there too.
Well, it wasn't, to me, because I feel the energy of the Terminator movie, and then I feel the energy of this,
And they're just different.
and they're just different. So
Yeah.
I cannot say it's Terminator,
Right.
but the concept is,
It was a Terminator 2.
shut it. um, it's interesting. You wanted Arnold to be good. When Arnold was bad in the first one, it was okay, but you could tell that at the essence of his vibrational frequency, he was at the core a good guy. And so when the Terminator 2 came out, because everybody already loved Arnold
Yeah,
and
right?
he was the good guy, the reason why it was so much more successful is because we the the remember you mentioned storytelling. The key part of the storytelling is the energy of your intent has to match the energy of their protagonist or antagonist.
Yeah.
And if the protagonist is at the core vibrating a good energy, and he can really be bad as an actor. I'm not saying Arnold is a bad actor. I'm just saying at the
He
core,
cannot be a bad character in the movie.
yeah, because at the core, his goodwill comes through, right? So, like when he was the bad guy, even though he did not say much, energetically, he's walking through the screen, and you can feel and see if you're intuitive
Right.
his positive
Right.
energy.
It's weird because it's like I haven't seen Terminator 1 in a long time, but I do remember thinking, "Oh,
There's
yes, obviously he's bad. Obviously he's trying to kill, uh, Sarah Connor, and, that certainly means the end for humanity." But at the same time, there's like, "Well, he's really cool."
well,
It's
you
just
like him,
you like him,
you
yeah.
like him,
In
but
in a
vibrational
in a
frequency.
way that doesn't carry through into the second one when, the liquid metal Terminator, you really don't want him to win
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because he's just bad. And
yeah,
in every I mean, oh, yeah, liquid stuff, that's cool, and the special effects were, ahead of their time back in 90
yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
but you don't want him to win in a way that, maybe Arnold yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not that you wanted Arnold to win. The
You could
energy
you
of
could
his being did not
yeah,
match the character that he was playing.
yeah. The other guy, he played a good bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So character acting wise, that's what I'm saying is Arnold Schwarzenegger is just innately vibrating the most, benevolent and kind and loving frequency. And so when you put that actor who is unable to, or does, like, I don't even think you should want to connect to the dark side of self, right? Um, it just, there's this dissonance, right? The dissonance is like you are intuitively perceiving something that is disconnected from the story mode of Terminator 1.
We side note, we've seen that I don't remember his name, that actor who played the T-1000
Yeah,
in several things,
in
and
Reacher.
he was in Reacher,
He
and
was
he
in
was in
Reacher as a
something
bad
else.
guy.
Yeah, and he plays a good bad guy. He plays this, like, skeezy, you just wanna punch him in the face type of bad guy. Um,
Yeah.
and he did a reference to Terminator, and that he was in something else too.
I thought the reference in Terminator wasn't Reacher.
Yeah, it was, but I think there was a different movie that he also had a reference to
Oh,
Terminator.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like someone checked in to a hotel under the name of Sarah Connor, and they're like, "Who's
Oh.
that?" And he's like, "Who cares who Sarah Connor is?"
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, right. When Aiden played, um, on Little Shop of Horrors, he played
Oren.
the sadistic dentist,
Yeah,
right?
Oren.
Uh, it was he's just such a he can't I don't think he can do a bad guy, but he was supposed to be a bad guy. Now, I enjoyed his acting though. Like
Yeah,
it was
he's
good.
he's good at acting,
He's good at
and
acting.
he has a lot of range, but at the same time, he's such a light-hearted, lovable guy.
Yeah, do you actually like I liked of course he's my son, so I'm wondering how everybody else perceived it. But you liked the character. The character was well liked
Right,
even though he was supposed to be this,
right.
douchey.
You didn't want bad things. Like who's just an over like. Imagine Tom Hanks playing some sort of evil guy. It'd be like,
Yeah.
well, I'm sure he could do it. He
Yeah.
has the abilities, but at the same time, you're like,
Have we
well,
ever
I'm kind
had
of
Tom
rooting for
Hanks play a
him.
bad guy?
I don't know.
I don't think I remember. I mean, there might be.
Right. Danny Trejo famously plays a lot of bad guys, but
Mhm.
his thing is if he plays a bad guy in a film, the bad guy has to die because he doesn't want to send the message specifically to his children that the bad guys end up winning or crime pays or anything like that.
Yeah.
So he dies a lot in the
Mm.
movies.
Yeah, no. So, it comes that's what I guess I want to discuss, and that's where it comes in. But maybe it's kind of like a discovery dialogue, and then, but at the same time, also just kind of like a um discussion of the progression is how, if we have the knowledge of dissonance not being able to hold structure, right? And then we have the knowledge that to replace, I guess maybe this is a thing that we should concentrate on, is everything that I get and everything that comes to me. Oh yeah, I got distracted on my Terminator, non-Terminator situation. So in the dream, Earth has been and is fighting, let's just say AI aware robots. And they are um not completely um mechanical. No, they are somehow organic. Like the matter in which they exist is semi-organic, which we don't have this technology, but I do think some extraterrestrial species do have this technology. And so what we're fighting them is that they are not conscious, but they are AI aware. Also, we don't have this technology yet, but it's coming, going that direction. But then they're also grown organically. Like so they're machines, but they're organic machines. So I like I have read like galactic type of technology stuff and in a lot of disclosure things that some people talk about with like Area 51 and all that. They talk about some of the machines that we come across. The ships are organic ships. So I think it's out there, but this is before I even knew that there's such thing as organic ships. And so we're fighting them, and there's no winning. Like you quite literally cannot win. Just the sheer nature of the difference in our technological advancement, and then ours as humans, right? And then their
It's ants fighting humans.
yeah, like we're just losing. And there's no winning in sight. And we've been fighting them for a long time. And so then they beam this message into me that we have to fight them on a different level. Right. And that at the time, this was years ago before I started doing this research into like energy balancing and energy cohesion. I thought, okay, well, you fight them with love. I'm like, well, how do you fight them with love? Like
Right.
it doesn't even make sense. But intuitively, I know what it is. And so there's this switch, like same thing. Do you remember my emperor dream that I had when I went into him? I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not. I flipped into a different dimensional interpretation or different dimensional outcome. And so when you go into cohesion, let's say if I think that's the word we came up with yesterday. I don't necessarily know if that's the word that is the opposite to dissonance. Maybe you should look that up. What is the opposite to dissonance? But cohesion is what we came up with.
Sure. Or harmony, or
Uh
maybe harmony.
yeah, but the cohesion is done through your energetic balancing of your center. And then basically what you do is you don't fight the war. You don't fight the pollution. You don't fight the AI organic robots. You actually replace the reality where there's no fight.
Well, this might be a real world example. The guy who is on Guy who does a lot of yoga, Kevin Courtney, he had he discovered he had cancer a little over a year ago, and I think it was like stage 4 lung cancer, which is big deal. Um, but he went about it very differently than a lot of people. A lot
I
of
think
people,
you're talking about on the last podcast.
maybe I did.
Yeah. You can still
I'll say
brush
it
stroke
again.
it.
A lot of people are like, I'm gonna fight cancer, fuck cancer, yeah, yeah, yeah. But he was like, no, love cancer, and I'll link to his Instagram, but he said, something along the lines of, thank you, cancer, for giving me this opportunity to understand myself better and to get my body and my spirit into better alignment or whatever. And it was never angry at cancer. It
Yeah.
it was never this violent die, cancer, die. Yes, he went through immunotherapy and he did whatever he did.
Yeah.
But a year later, he is cancer free. from stage 4 lung cancer to cancer-free within a year
Mhm.
is a medical quote, "medical miracle."
Is that what they said?
I don't know that that's what they said, but
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. I mean, that usually doesn't happen. Usually stage 4 cancer ends up you're dead in a year, not cancer-free in a year.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he is very spiritually open type of guy, but the fact that that's how he approached it, I'm sure it was scary. I'm sure it was, nerve-wracking. I'm sure it would be for anybody. But he approached it from a position of love instead of a position of hate.
Yeah. Everything that I mean, I talk this dream is obviously uh, even if you look at it as metaphorical, I knew I was in a dream, but you could look at it as metaphorical scenario. Every day in our life, we kind of come in and we're faced with slew of things that are not in dissonance, that are actually dissonance, right? Right, like cancer is a, I would look at it as dissonance,
Yeah,
right?
it's not in harmony with the rest of your body.
Yeah, it's something that comes in that is creating disharmony, right?
Yeah,
And then, to this extent, if you want to apply what we're talking about to and I think we tried to talk about yesterday, is the because because it is of disharmony, it is not holding structure, right? So to fight it, right, would be simply to address or to dive into things that are actually structured and start giving your body more structure.
right.
More structure, so more love, more, in his case, more good music, more good food,
Yeah,
more healthy things, more activities. I think he like separated himself from like all news and all bullshit and all that. And so
yeah,
he only participated in positive things.
right,
But what positive things means is, I'm not judging it good versus bad. Positive in this case means structure. It
right,
holds intent and structure of love or of
right. And
harmony.
and and what is in harmony with person A is not necessarily the same thing that's in harmony with person
Yeah.
B, but there are probably general, you know,
But
brushstrokes of,
but to
well,
you,
more water is probably in harmony with most people. More, vegetables and green plants is probably in harmony with most people.
yeah. But
Less news is probably in harmony with most people.
right, but you can say, okay, here's the things that are more harmonious or not, or you can, in Marcel Vogel's teaching and this Pleiadian and crossover, basically what you can look at is you can create anything into harmony by simply placing the intention on anything or anyone or any concept. And you create harmony, you create structure of harmony, of love, of joy, in order to not fight off the war or the cancer or water pollution, but you just simply insert your intentional structure.
Right.
uh in your intentional structure, this is another thing that came up to me. And maybe this is why I was confused about. I spoke on the phone with somebody who wanted me to do some dowsing, and he was a geologist, and we were talking about, um like him actually doing whatever it is he called me about. And then, unbeknownst to him, I went some other direction. And then we just kind of went to the side, and we started talking about um grid work. Like that is what I do, um inside my head, I guess. And he asked me, well, does it help, right? And I guess you took it of like, oh, is it working?
Yeah, does it help versus is it not doing anything?
Yeah, and I took it as of like, well, is it positive,
Does
right?
it help versus does it hurt?
Yeah, right. But I was thinking, in a way, that is the same assumption. The assumption is that somebody is creating structure and it's not working, which is what you took it as. And in my case, is like it's actually harming, right? And to me, that was such a wild question. And like it just took me by surprise to where that didn't even make sense to me. Like I was like,
Well, it's like if it to me, it's like, well, if it's not helping but it's hurting, you wouldn't be doing it anymore. If you actively
But why would right, to me, I guess, why would I initiate anything energetically if it is not in the greatest good of everyone?
right, I mean, it doesn't make sense unless you're, some sort of evil mastermind
Y
person.
There's that, but then 2, it comes back to dissonance. I cannot build structures, I cannot build grids, or, or triangulate anything if
Off of hatred.
off of dissonance, right? So by default, his question did not make sense on so many levels, and it took me by surprise on so many levels. And that's what it was: is you took a different way, I took it a different way. Like, to me, it was like, wait, why would I? And then in your way, I'm like, I don't think it would have worked. I don't think somebody can build a structure of dissonance and have it hold place. I say that, of course, what is the Goodwin law or whatever?
Godwin's law?
The what?
Godwin's law?
Yeah, right. Going back to Nazis, how did that happen, right? And
Well, I mean, the Nazis were everything they represented was terrible. Let's just put that out there. But they were not, they were coherent. They were organized. They were put as an organization.
no, but this is
But
different.
then I mean, is what they believe in coherent? Maybe not. But they were organized. They
Well,
were they were structured. They were put together.
yeah, but
They were efficient.
the structure was with an intent of dissonance, right? Like, in the long run, if you had to plot the energy on that
Right.
chart, you would go, well, okay, Nazis' intent in the long run, despite any one person, as a
I
whole,
mean,
as a group consciousness, that was not at the
right.
higher vibrational
I mean,
frequency.
if you look at it from their point of view, was it dissonant, or is it, more of us, less of everybody else, I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I mean, it's clearly bad. It's obviously a bad thing. But where is the dissonance?
so
Is it in the message?
so
The belief?
there's 2 things, right? And it's gonna get, like, out there, but, let's be honest, I'm already out there. One, Nazis' energy matched the conversation we had during the Orion Wars, right? Between the polarity
Yeah,
of negative and the positive. And by negative and the positive, I mean one where you are not you're not one with the spirit of self, right? And you're almost shut off from the idea that there is this balance into the
sure.
light.
They're the empire in that
They're
thing.
the
Yeah.
empire.
Okay.
And in fact, there's some controversial topics there, but the initial jump that Hitler had that actually gave him a huge advantage was him channeling or him communicating with extraterrestrial beings that gave him all this advanced technology, because they started developing advanced technology super rapidly. And of course, the what is it, the Antarctic base where they
Yeah.
had the flying saucers and all that.
Yeah.
It,
High jump, Operation High Jump.
well, high jump is when we try to take
We
them
tried to take it
down,
back, and that didn't
but
work.
whatever the operation is, that basically the extraterrestrial actually gave them
Yeah.
the blueprints, I guess, for the spacecraft. But then, of course, kind of like out there, but that is what I believe. Um, but what we did, right, just like what we are doing with Ukraine and Russia right now, and just what we're doing with Israel and Palestine, we addressed the attack from an attack, right? So, as bad as the Nazis were, our only recourse of action at the time, right, being Earth 1941, is war, is like-minded energy, right? So we were fighting the war on a like-minded operational thought process, right? Dissonance with more dissonance, right? Now, did it help that the good guys, I say good guys, actually had heart in it, so their dissonance was actually coming out of this the space of love, right? Why is Ukraine winning, right? Like controversial right now, right? Smaller country. I mean, I know United States and all the other superpowers are giving it resources,
Yeah.
but in the long run, everyone who is fighting from the heart,
Yeah. Right. I
right?
mean,
They are still fighting and they're still addressing
right.
the energy of
It's
dissonance.
a lot harder. I mean, it's like the same thing with, a uh, any sort of sports ball game. The home team has a big advantage just because they're on their home turf. Why? On one hand, it's like, why would that matter? Why is this field any different from that field? But it is. There's an internal resonance with that, say, location. Say the feelings about this location. If you go out to some random, you know, soccer field, who cares? But if it's your field, you feel it.
Well, no, in this case, I'm not even talking about physical location of Ukraine. What they feel is love for the country
That they're
on an
defending.
emotional level,
Yeah,
right? What they're
yeah, but I think
protecting
it's
is they're protecting their children, they're protecting their wives. And
right. I
what
mean,
is
that's
that?
that's
That
obviously
is love.
much more extreme version, but I think it's related. It's like because it's
My land.
yeah, it's like this is ours. This is worth protecting. This is worth cherishing, type of a thing,
Yeah.
as opposed to. And I don't know if how much the Russian soldiers on the ground believe that they are doing the right thing. Maybe they do. I find that far fetched, but if you're fighting, if you're literally fighting a war that you don't believe in, eh, it's not going to go as well. That if you have, if you really believe in it.
Yeah. Well, there are probably a handful of people who actually believe in it. Maybe a handful and plus one. um yeah, right. But that is the difference. Is I want to say is what we see in war, right? Everything that we have ever known energetically is how you fight attack, how you fight hatred or aggression is with like-minded energy. And then the battle, basically, what Nietzsche's saying is, you become the enemy that you fight. But in this case, it's basically you give it more power by bringing in more power.
So so how do the aggressors, whether it's the Nazis or the Russians or pick any thing throughout history, how do they get as far as they do, knowing that they're coming from a place of dissonance, whether that's evil or hatred or whatever.
Yeah, we all have free will, right? So through our free will, we have the entire range of the emotional scale to bring forth as our reality, right? Just like you wake up in the morning, you can choose to hate first thing in the morning, and that can be your choice. And you have energy, right? You have 2000 calories to burn throughout the day, and put that forth through your willpower and intent into whatever you want. So Nazis channeled energy, right? You have free will, was channeled into the cumulative morphic resonance of, we're going to kill the Jews, right? Or are we going to take over the world?
But where does dissonance fit into that?
It is coming out of dissonance, right? Because if you think about it, what in order for you to decide to kill off all the Jews in Western and Eastern Europe, that's hatred, like ingrained hatred.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that the energy of hatred cannot exist. What I'm saying is, it does not hold as much power as we think it does. Like it, right? Like what we give it power by thinking that it has power. We give it power by going to look at this power, right? We like go, what does the news reporting does whenever the war happens? Like, oh my gosh, look, Nazi has 20 more tanks and now they have like 15 more U-boats. How are we gonna do that? Oh, we're gonna have to disable their U-boats, right? Oh, we're gonna have to like kill their tanks or whatever, right? Like we start thinking about logically of how do we fight evil by destroying things from the physical interpretation. And that's how we have been fighting on earth all along. I'm not saying we should continue to fight, or I'm not saying we should just give up and lay down, from the Orion war type of a polarity, but
This is another level.
this is what this is right. On the Orion's War podcast, we talked about the empire having ill intent, right, and coming from let's say, standpoint of dissonance. But because they have the energy, it will continue to propagate. There's nothing stopping you from speaking bad words into the water, right? Emotive style, and then have that water be what it is. That it, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And so, like, imagine Nazi intention is just that. Just each human being is just speaking something negative into the water. The next day, the water's still there, right? Whether or not that water's in good condition or not is irrelevant. The intent is there, right? And so each one of the Nazi soldiers or generals or Hitler himself basically propagated that forth and forth and forth. And then, and then let's be honest, most of the people kind of like fell in on, in my case, what I can relate to on Ukrainian and trying to fight the Nazis with like hatred for the Nazi,
Yeah.
right? That movie that we just watched with Henry Cavill, that Guy Ritchie did. What's
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
yeah, right. It talked about that the special operations that went on it's based on a true story about this like covert team destroying the supply to the U-boats
Yeah.
that actually allowed United States to enter World War II.
Yeah.
Because otherwise United States couldn't
Yeah,
get their ships
they
across the
lost about
Atlantic.
half the ships to U-boats.
Yeah. But then after they cut the supply to the U-boats could not function, and the United States was able to get Great Britain. But that right in that case, right? I think the story Guy Ritchie likes to tell these stories, but they're stories of underdogs who, in their even in their limited numbers and limited capacity, do great feats
Right.
because of the drive and the power behind them.
Right.
And so they're think about it. Their
I mean,
drive is
they
hatred.
also hated the Nazis. Yeah.
Yeah, their drive is hatred. So there's dissonance there, right? But at the same time, it is love for their fallen, like in that case they said that, now I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of them had their family members killed to the Nazis. And
Yeah.
so a
Yeah.
lot of them, that passion to win came from love.
Is it love or is it revenge?
It's but there's both, right?
Yeah.
There's so the energy is both, right? If you think about it, the hatred towards Nazis coming from dissonance, right? But the love for the country and the love
Yeah.
for revenge,
So it's multifaceted.
it's multifaceted, but the unfair advantage that they had, I say unfair, but thank God they had an advantage, right? Is because they were not completely in dissonance, even though they were still warring against the Nazis. Behind them, they had the drive that it was hard driven energy that actually propelled them forth higher, not on the same different dimension that I'm talking about, but not far from it. They were peaking, they were
I
touching that point.
I wonder if the average Nazi soldier had a love for the fatherland, or if it's just pure
Some did
hatred.
probably. I mean, Hitler, I would say to some extent.
I wonder if the fact that these evil, you look throughout history, there's all these evil groups and people and things that have happened, but for the most part, obviously it's not perfect today, but for the most part, things have worked out for the better, right? You can look at 2024 today and go, yes, we've got this war and we've got this war and we've got all these. There's plenty of problems, sure, but for most people in most places, it is objectively better today than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Um, and I'm not just talking about, oh, now we have flushing toilets and light bulbs. I mean, just like, you know, in the United States at least, women can vote. We don't have slaves. We don't all the medical stuff, sure, but um, like in the end, it seems like the positive stuff ends up winning. May
Yeah.
take a while. A lot of people may die. Yes, but in the end, uh, you know, we went to tour University of Louisville, and just the inclusiveness of it is amazing. How amazingly inclusive it is, and we're trapped in our own little bubble here, that we don't go anywhere. But it was not like that 20 years ago. Not
Yeah.
that it wasn't inclusive, not that it was exclusive, but it wasn't overtly inclusive in the way that it is today.
Yeah. Um, just to that same extent, like what we're that inclusiveness, what it's doing, it is not just addressing the current issue. Like, oh, we want all
Diversity,
diversity in all sexual orientation. Let's
right?
say if,
It,
the,
yeah,
if I have to put a sexual
it's
orientation.
right. It's like on the surface, you could almost think it's about that, but I don't think it's about that.
No, but what it is inserting momentum into the mindset of younger generation. This is not brainwashing. This is just like, here's what we want the world to be like, and here's what we're doing about it. And if
Yeah,
you go to the school, you will be part of this
movement,
movement that is similar to the Nazis, I guess, that is the thought process of
right?
is what is it does it mean to accept everyone for who they are? What does it mean to be equal? What does it mean to
I mean, there is
not discriminate?
right, and there is value in people with different backgrounds because they have different experiences, different viewpoints. It's not to say any one is right or wrong, good or bad, but the if you get a whole bunch of if you get a whole bunch of exclusively straight white men in a room,
Yeah.
well, now you've just described 1950s Mad Men,
No,
and that ends up going
no,
going
I
sideways.
hate to say it, you still are describing controlling
Right.
America.
Sure, that is still where a lot of it is. But if you're, if it's diverse and inclusive and that's promoted,
It's not just promoted. Why would it not be? Right now we have to go, "Oh, look,
do we have to
in order
do we have
for
to
make
do
our
we have to
company
tilt
look
this
good."
purposely tilt the scales?
Well, like, yeah, we have to, like,
Oh yeah.
diversify
We have to
ourselves
have
in order to say, like, "Oh, look, Pepsi is diverse and it has a female CEO." Do you know what I mean? And you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
But to that same extent, what I wanna say is, you know
Yeah, instead of, "Oh, females make up 50% of the population. Female CEOs should be about 50% of the CEOs."
yeah.
That's how it should land. Doesn't land that way though.
No. No, but, there's all kinds of political agendas and things along the way. But what I want to get back to or point out is we have always only known this Iran war dynamic between the bad guys suppressing the weak, and then uh,
Resistance?
the resistance trying to right the wrong, right the wrong,
Yeah.
right wrong the right.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I do think it is wrong the right.
Implying that what exists is right and they're trying to
Implying that they have decided that the fight that they need to partake on is the right thing to do. But what they're actually doing is they're adding on more fuel to the fire, right? They're if the scales are already off balance and we're already on this linear progression of things, right? Continue to be on the linear progression of things is not where
solution.
the solution to anything.
Yeah.
It is not the war we need to fight. What we need to do is raise above it and actually see the wrong for the right, and then the right for the right from a different standpoint. Like, we need to completely flip our thinking to where we're not functioning on this dualistic thinking, and we need to be warring. But we need to actualize ourselves into what is love? Like, what does winning look like? What outside of what?
I can't. You can't say what is love without me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are certain phrases that just I have that song in my head all day now.
No, but in that dream that I had, basically that's what they said. Like, you're fighting the wrong battle here,
Yeah,
and so there, you know, in this scale, I want to say we are fighting this battle within ourselves on daily basis, right? We're facing this dissonance every day ourselves, and then we basically, um, there you go. Yesterday, I had an uncomfortable phone call with somebody,
I remember.
um, and I
You're all,
was
gosh. Afterward, you were quite worked up. Way more worked up than you had any reason to be.
yes, and I was analyzing it this morning. I'm like, okay, what is it? And to begin with, the phone call,
In the end, he just wanted to vent,
he wanted to vent. He wanted
which,
to vent.
you know, sometimes you just got to let people vent. I mean, he was venting at you because he felt maybe wronged personally by you,
Yeah.
but, you know, he just wanted to be heard.
Yes, and I said, I'm like, to begin with, I was sitting there, right? And I was like, I'm like, okay, this is so he starts aggressively, right? And he actually blames me for being aggressive. Now, I will get aggressive if someone starts to attack me. That is just my status quo. I think I need to work on that. But what I realize is the second somebody shoots that dissonance energy towards me, my automatic response is meet like energy with like energy.
Yeah, no, it's an incredibly normal
Yeah.
human reaction to
And
do.
this is we're continuing to have these episodes and podcasts where I fail at this, right? And um but so this is what I realize is the second somebody shoots that at me, at that time I was sitting there and then going, okay, he wants to have a fight. And I'm like, I can see what he wants to do. He just wants me to be the bad guy and he wants to tell me that I'm the bad guy and he wants me to admit to being the bad guy. And I say, I'm like, where do you want this conversation to go? Because nothing will change. I said that to him. That was in Russian, so you do not know that. But and he's like, well, no, I want to tell you how things are. And I'm like, but it's not going to go anywhere. And he's like, I don't want it to go anywhere. I know it's not going to go anywhere, but I want to tell you what things are. So he wanted to be in the
Well,
right.
that's actually that's surprisingly, I don't know what the word is. Oh, aware on him that he's like, it doesn't matter. This isn't going to change anything. I just need to tell you this.
Yeah, but at that point, I realized the only thing that he has is he has this negative energy, this hatred or this judgment or this I have been wronged. And he wants to vent it towards me. So he knows, so I know that I'm the bad guy and he's the good guy. That is the whole conversation, right? Or at least that's the way I'm taking it. And I'm like, okay, I will allow this to come. But then as it comes, I notice myself having hard times not defend my side of the story, right? Which is what the war is, right? The
Mhm.
Nazis versus Ukraine or
Yeah,
Russia.
because it's you did this, you did this, you did this,
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay,
which are, maybe factually true, maybe not,
well,
maybe
there's two
maybe
sides to every
maybe
story in
maybe
this case.
incomplete.
Yeah. So he's telling me how he's seeing things. And
Yeah,
of course, I have my version of things,
right.
right? And
That are
so,
that are both true.
yes,
That's interesting. They're both
they're both
true,
true.
but it's like yeah, it's like it's interesting because they're both true.
Mhm.
I assume he's telling the truth. Let's sure.
Well,
Granted, let's say
the
he's telling the
the
truth.
version of the truth he's telling is the version that he wants to stick with, right?
Sure.
But then what I'm telling him is the nuance that makes him responsible, and he doesn't want to
Right.
hear those.
R-
So he has created this narrative where I'm the bad guy, and what I'm doing is completely unfair. And then I'm like, okay, I could argue all these things, but then I'm like, yeah, but what he's not doing is he's not seeing my side of things at all, right? And I noticed myself fall into an argumentative state of being, which he started with. He's like, why are you arguing with me? And I'm like, you started the conversation with arguing, right? Um, and so yeah, so I get defensive, and I think what happens is maybe I don't know, most women will not get as aggressive in the fight as I do. I don't know if that's the case or
I
not.
think that's probably the case.
And so I get very aggressive. Like I will, and usually my arguments are very concise, and
Yeah.
men get very ticked off by that because usually most of the men that I talk to are not.
They don't expect that.
Well, they don't expect me to have a coherent argument back to where they're cornered in,
Yeah.
and then they're stuck.
Yeah, I know that got me.
What?
That got me. That's gotten me multiple times. No, I mean, there's like a stereotype.
My goal is not to corner them.
No,
but I can
but
present a cohesive
you're
argument.
a smart, logical person who can do that.
Yeah.
There's like a stereotype that women are, I guess, unable to do that, and it's just going to turn into this emotional, oh, you hurt my feelings. I don't know what, and maybe that's what people expect if you're going to argue with a woman. But that is not you, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, with me, it's...
You're like, the paper says this, there's a signature, end of story. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, and I can keep on repeating those things, and I'm not being an ass. I'm just...
Yeah.
That is when I actually can take a higher road and not argue, not fall into the dissonance that are being presented towards me. But what I noticed is as I was sitting there, and he's like, well, let me just vent, basically is what he said. Just let me say everything I want to say, right? And I'm like, okay. And so he keeps on saying. And I noticed there as I'm sitting there and he keeps on like piling on what then I start considering untruth. I have hard time not falling into the dissonance and then not delivering the like energy back. And in my case, I can amplify energy really hard. And then on top of that, deliver a logical argument back that basically positions them into the corner and they can't win.
Yeah.
But in this case, I don't know. His goal was not to win. His goal was to vent. But at the same time, I then took the offensive version back and going, yeah, fuck this shit. You're not winning.
Right.
So I was
at the same time
meeting like energy with like energy.
Where we landed on that price, he probably feels like it's a bit of a win.
It was not even about the price. At the end, he wanted to vent about the initial money, the initial experience. That's the only thing he wanted, right? And then when I cornered him in of like, yeah, this is the narrative that you have designed in your head is not truth. And I'm not the bad guy. Here's what you could have done that you chose not to do, right? So do you see what I mean? He made this narrative. He did sales pitch to himself.
There's nothing I could have done.
I did nothing wrong and you fucked me over.
Yeah.
And with me, it's like, well, no, I got fucked over and this is the middle where we met, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't fuck you over. You were responsible for 2 years of things, and this is how your responsibility affected me. And so when I told him that story, right, and he's like, well, what could I have done? I'm like, well, you could have done this. And then he went, yeah, I guess I could have done that. But he didn't want to do that, right? And so when I ended at that, I'm like, okay, I noticed myself sinking in this rigmarole of him presenting me with bullshit and then me answering with my bullshit. And that cyclical nature just would have continued on and on and on.
Was it the same story over and over and over? Was it like, you know who? Where it's just like it's just a circle. He seems a lot more intelligent.
Well, no, this guy's a little bit more intelligent. So with him, the circle continued to add on more details that were irrelevant right from the start, but it did continue to have a logical progression.
Okay.
Versus some men that argue.
It is a circle. It's A to B to C to D to A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, but we were just here. Why are we back? Why are we back talking about A? We were on D.
The human being that I'm referencing in this case was, again, energy of dissonance brings that forth. He's right. I'm completely wrong. In his case, there was zero right, but that's besides the point. But again, I fall into the trap of meeting like energy with like energy. And then what I respond to him with the argument back. And then sooner or later, I just noticed, I'm like, okay, I can be going at this for hours. Like the story just doesn't change. And him, I'm just repeating the same words over and over. And I literally say that. I'm like, we're talking in circles for how long are we going to go on like this? Now, the reason why he wants to go on is he wants to give me something where he feels like he's winning. He needs to feel like he's win. Most men arguing with women feel like they need to win. And when they don't, it just keeps on going.
I don't think that applies necessarily just to women, but I think everybody feels like they need to win. And there's almost a psychological game you can play where you can give them some triviality in the end where they've won. You're like, if you do it the right way, you haven't lost, but they feel like they've won. So everybody ends up being happy.
Yeah, but my goal is
Which-
not to play a psychological game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like most men do. I think that is what most men do. They try to play a psychological game with women or not. I'm talking from my personal experience because every time, we've been running business for over 20 years and I've been in business for 20 years. And so most of the contacts that I have or most of our customers initially, at least to begin with, were men. And most of them, at least when it comes to me. So I'm only speaking from my personal experience as a woman dealing with men who are perceived to be in power. And their goal is to always put me in a submissive position where they are the right and I'm wrong, and I'm in some form of servitude to them. Right?
Well, they'll get something extra out of the deal.
Extra out of the deal, or when the deal happens, they are in charge. They are making the decision. Like if it's a point of negotiation, then yeah, they like get the price that they want.
Right.
Right?
I mean, but
Or
that seems like sales psychology 101 is like, well, it's just like haggling in the bazaar. It's like, they have they're going to start out at, $20 for this thing, and you start out at $1 for this thing, and in the end you land at $5, and I don't know if everybody's happy or nobody's happy, whatever it is, you've got it for what you want, and they're selling it and they're making a profit.
yeah, but think about
But then
this.
again,
Anytime we travel and every time we go to the country where that's the status quo,
yeah,
is they start at $180, but truthfully you can get it for $20. I usually don't play that game.
right. I mean, and it's almost like, hey, I'm not a normal tourist who's going to play this game. I will offer this. I'm not going to budge on it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what we need to say. But at the same time, it's like for professional services, it's kind of weird to haggle. That feels awkward. I mean,
No,
I will do it when we have our windows replaced. I'm like, hey, if we get all of them, can we get a discount? If we pay in cash, can we get a discount? If we do this, can we get a discount? Maybe, maybe not. It's worth a shot. I don't begrudge anyone for trying.
Yeah, no, it's not trying. It's that the need to win. I
Right.
think that's where I'm coming down is, in his case, when he made that phone call, he wanted to vent and he wanted me to know that I was the bad guy. And that within itself would have made him feel better that like I cheated him. Right. And of course, with me, that is a huge trigger of being accused of cheating someone when basically what I'm trying to do is
Not get cheated.
not get cheated, right?
Right.
So like energy meeting like energy, and that's my trigger, right? My trigger is, wait, you think I cheated you? I'm just trying not to be screwed over, right?
I don't think that check's been deposited.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway, and so that I saw myself become with resonance of his dissonance, and I saw myself be here and go, okay, I don't have to go there. I can see where he's going. I can see where it's coming from. But the more it went on and on and on, my personal trigger got reactivated or activated, right? And then I saw myself, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is enough. I am now going to go on the defensive. And then he's blaming me, and I will basically not blame him, but tell him what my side of things looks like, right? And he was responsible for things when he was claiming he wasn't, and he was telling me he wasn't responsible for anything. So basically, where I came from is there's two sides to every story, and here's what my side is. At the end, that conversation was completely irrelevant, and we finished the conversation on a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But that is what everyday life is. Things will come at you, and a lot of the times, or depending on who you deal with, they will sometimes come at you straight out of the core point of dissonance.
Yeah.
Like straight out of hatred, straight out of, judgment, straight out of anger.
Right.
And then what we are so used to doing, I am so used to doing, is meeting that to the exact match. I will just go
Right.
straight into defensive and go, oh no.
Not just match it, but
Well, but it, my goal is, right, if you have it come at you, then the first instinct is like, oh, they're attacking me. I have to be on defensive and not attack them back, but if nothing else, defend myself. But that in that defensive, what you're actually doing is attacking, right? The Nietzsche's like-minded energy breeds,
Right.
you could become the enemy that you fight.
I mean, part of that is notable in that is the jump to they're attacking me, which may or may not be
No, but that's my
completely true.
trigger.
But I know. Believe me, I've been in plenty of situations where things that are being said, maybe someone just wants to vent, maybe they're talking about something, but it feels like a personal attack on me.
Yeah.
And it's how do you not react to
Well,
that?
you don't,
it's difficult
because
to
you
not react
see
to that.
that this is triggering you.
Yes.
Right. I see it. I'm like, wait, this is triggering I'm the bad guy, right? I am the one who is an abuser, right? They're
Right.
perceiving me as the empire, and they're perceiving themselves as a victim. This is back to the Orion Wars. I'm the empire, I'm the bad guy, and they're the victim, and they want me to know that I'm the bad guy. And then they want the status quo of this conversation to end where I'm the victim. The right thing to do is, okay, well, look, it's quite literally empire versus the victim or the resistance, whatever, right? In this case, it's resistance because he's fighting back, right? He's not just sitting back there. And then it's that balance, right? He wants to right the wrong by not fighting me and wanting to get something out of it. He wants me to know that I'm the bad guy. In this case, right, it's not, he doesn't want any action out of it. He wants acknowledgement that I'm the bad guy. He wants me to acknowledge that I'm the bad guy, right? And the right thing to do in that case, once again, I just keep on failing at all these things, is for me to see that, meet that with what it is, do not dive into me becoming the resistance and him becoming the empire, right?
Right,
Like,
because you just want to flip the
I
position.
want to flip the roles and me become the good guy and show it to him that he's a bad guy, which is what I did. Unfortunately, successful because I'm always successful at it. But then later on, of course, when awareness kicks in, I'm always resentful to my own self about like choices of that, right? And so the right response to it would have been is never to dive into the polarity of empire versus the resistance or versus the victimhood, and they just meet it with love.
So how does that look like? Does it look like saying, okay, what's happening here is that you think you're right and that I'm wrong, and I'm over here trying to do the opposite where I think I'm right and you're wrong. But
You could say that, yeah.
But this game, we could play this game all day, and in the end, nobody's going to be happy. You've got your list of things that you think are true, and maybe they are true. Doesn't matter. And I've got my list of things that I think are true, and maybe they are true. Also doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But here we are. Do you want to waste 30 minutes?
That is what I initially basically said to him. I'm like, why even? But yeah, he wanted that. He wanted to waste 30 minutes of making sure in his eyes there was this verdict, right? He needed a verdict to where I agreed that I was the bad guy.
Did you end up agreeing you were the bad guy?
No.
But
I mean,
you agree that you saw and understood his points, I assume. Something like that.
In this case, there was a third party involved that both he is claiming did something and I don't know. And I just assumed that they were not doing anything wrong, right? So in that case, I said, I assumed that when this party had you sign this paper, that everything was right.
Yeah.
And I did not think that this party lied on this paper. And when they gave me this paper, this was in fact somehow tricking me.
Yeah, some sort of forgery or trickery or
yeah.
I don't know.
He's saying that this party, but that's argument one. But the point two is, regardless of what this paper looked like, what we charged them for.
Yeah, we all agree that this is your fault and this is your fault.
Yeah, there's still things on that list, regardless of this party tricking you. He was blaming me for tricking him. There are still things that he's responsible for, right? So I did not make him to be the bad guy, but I guess what my goal was like, I know you have your side of the story, but you're not, basically what we do when we're the victim and somebody else is the aggressor, we don't see ourselves. I'm guilty of it myself.
Yeah.
You don't see any wrongdoing on your end. You
Right.
only see the other guy as,
And it's easy
you
to
know,
pick the most trivial of things and make it the most important of things. Like,
yeah, but you don't see your side of things, right? And so yeah, so what I did is I dove into the dissonance, and I basically communicated to that same extent with like-minded energy my side of things. Yeah, but what I should have done is should have said, there's two sides to every story. Instead of us diving in and arguing over the details, what is the end outcome here? What is it that you want out of this, right? And the truth is, he just wanted to vent. And then maybe I should have just let him vent and allowed him to express his perception of me as evil or the empire. Or is it getting ready to drip? Um, and then left it there.
yeah.
But of course, as usual, I failed,
No,
and I dove in and I started to defend myself
I mean, I
because I have a trigger of being the victim, right? All of us have triggers of I'm the victim and somebody else is the bad guy, somebody else is the empire, and then thus I have to
defend yourself.
defend yourself. But there's the victim, there's the empire, and then there's the resistance. And when the empire comes at you, then the resistance within you comes up, which is what this was. The trigger is the resistance. And then I'm triggered into attack back. Not attack out of nowhere, but defense. Resistance is a defender, right? You're resisting the bad guy.
Yeah. There's probably a useful skill in being able to be, quote, attacked. And you don't have to believe the attack. You don't have to accept the attack, but you don't have to defend yourself and fight back. Just sort of let it
The useful
let it
skill
go.
is to see through your triggers.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
it's the
see
seeing
what
through
this
it.
is triggering.
Yeah.
Triggering.
Yeah.
That is quite literally what awareness is.
Yes, but then
It's just I'm painting another story of how I am failing at my own.
But you can do that, and then you can go, okay, well, I'm just going to let this, what I would normally consider an attack, I'm just going to let it play out, and that's fine, and he'll feel better, but I won't feel worse.
What? To begin with, I was sitting there and I had awareness, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and I'm not gonna dive in. I'm gonna address this from a different standpoint, right? And he went on and he went on and he went on, and I noticed myself tensing and tensing and tensing, right? My lower centers are being activated, and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely being triggered and sinking into the duality, right? And so I noticed myself making an active choice to go, fuck this, fuck awareness. I will defend myself. I am not going to let this slide by.
Yeah. I mean,
not to win, but
to not lose.
To not lose.
Right.
Which is what war is, right? Is you're fighting not because you want to win, but because you don't want to lose. And there's the difference that we don't recognize, right? Because you cannot go, wait, how is this wrong? Somebody is attacking me, and the only thing I want to do is just not lose. I don't want to win. There's no winning. I just want to not lose.
Right.
Right. And in my dream that I had is, once again, we were fighting, Earth was fighting these organic beings on the very defensive, right? Aggressive defender level, Orion War style. And basically the message that I got is, yeah, there's no need to fight, and you will never win, right? You're quite literally already losing and have been losing for a very, very long time. There's no such thing as winning here. And the only thing you need to do is just basically fight it from the next level. By fight it, I mean actually not fight it and race to the next level where it is not even a thing, right? So with me, what I was supposed to do in my awareness is rise it to where I would actually quite literally dissolve the whole duality of victim versus empire versus resistance.
Right.
I would not triangulate myself in that space. And I would go into the space where cohesion could hold form, right? Structure actually could hold form. And then by default, the second I decide to take on form, the triangulation of the conflict would basically completely cease to exist.
Good news. You'll have more opportunities.
Right? And we're still here. Hence, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we wrapping it up? Or?
I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.